Verse 9. So the chief cupbearer told his dream to Joseph and said to him, in my dream there was a vine before me, and on the vine there were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, its blossoms shot forth, and the clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. Okay, so this is the dream he had. So he was sleeping in this dream. He had these 3 branches. They shot forth. They bring forth the fruit. He took the fruit. He pressed it, put it in the cup, and then he handed the cup to Pharaoh. Okay, now Joseph in the next verse is going to interpret this dream. Verse 12. Then Joseph said to him, this is the interpretation. The 3 branches are 3 days. Okay, that's pretty simple. 3 branches, 3 days. Okay. Verse 13. In 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office, and you shall place Pharaoh's cup in his hand as formerly when you were his cupbearer. So in 3 days' time, what's going to happen? Pharaoh will forgive you. He will restore you. And you will be restored to your place, and you will be entrusted by Pharaoh again. Okay, now I just want to quickly, before we go on here, say, see, we know, most of us have heard the story in Sunday school. I guess most people listening to this are Christian. And so that you would kind of know the story of the dream. And even if you haven't read it in the Bible, I mean, there's Hollywood movies about it. Okay, so we always have this idea. We know the answer already. But put yourself in Joseph's shoes. He didn't know the answer. Okay, 3 might not mean 3 days. 3 might mean 3 weeks, 3 years. It might mean lots of other kinds of things. Okay, so it's not like, oh, but man, this is so simple. This is such a simple dream when you read it. Okay, it's like, I would have been able to interpret this dream, right? That's how you might feel. And when I read it, this is kind of how I feel. I could have interpreted this dream. I don't need God to tell me an interpretation kind of this dream. It seems so straightforward. It kind of, you are the one, 3 branches, you are the one to press out, you give it to Pharaoh. That kind of sounds like, this is what's going to happen. But it only sounds like that for the simple reason that we know the answer. Okay, if you don't know the answer, it is a lot more difficult. Say if you're like now I forgot the word for it. Not the cul-de-sac. Like where this round. I forgot now the word for it. Just 1 second. This is like how you are in a maze. Okay. If you are on the outside of the maze, you need to get to the inside of the maze. You don't really need to know. You don't really need to know how to do it. Okay, if you get a bird's eye view of it, yes, sure, it becomes a lot easier. But it's not always possible to get the drone to fly over your head and show you. So the easiest normally solution to any of this is if you start in the middle. It's a lot easier when you're in the middle to get out than it's when you're on the outside trying to get in. Okay, so this is as well, therefore, it seems to us very logical. I mean, that you don't need God to interpret this dream for you, right? Because we know the answer. But Joseph did not know the answer. This dream could have meant lots of other things. This is what it meant, and because this is what we knowing the answer know now. Okay, so please don't therefore project your knowledge onto what is happening here and thinking, oh man, Joseph is just saying nonsense. He could have logically, simply interpreted this dream. He didn't need God or an angel telling him the answer here. No, it's not like that. He still needed God. He needed God. Okay, verse 14. Only remember me when it's well with you, and please do me the kindness to mention me to Pharaoh, and so get me out of this house. For I, verse 15, was indeed stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and they also have done nothing that they should put me into the pit. Okay, so Joseph now knows this guy is going to be restored. Joseph now knows this guy is going to have the ear of Pharaoh. Pharaoh will listen to him. He will give advice to Pharaoh, right? It's like Pharaoh's, like Marco Rubio is to President Donald Trump kind of idea, right? It's like this, the one that gives advice, or maybe J.D. Vance to him, okay, maybe Elon Musk to him, okay? The one that gives advice, and he kind of listens to it, he gets advice from that person, not to say he's going to do what the person is saying, but at least he's asking for advice, this person. So the cupbearer being back in that position, being the Elon Musk to Donald Trump kind of idea, now he can speak out, and he can, and in that sense, Joseph can be the moment he is restored. 3 days later, he can tell Pharaoh that there's this guy unlawfully there in prison. He told me this dream, we need to let him get out, okay? We need to let him go. This is what Joseph is hoping for. And through this time, I can then be free, okay? And so he tells him, don't forget about me. But unluckily, we know how this chapter is going to end. This guy is going to forget. Okay, and then Joseph says, but I was stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and I've done nothing here to be put in the pit. Right now, why is he speaking of stolen? Another Bible scholar, when he translated this word, he used the word kidnap. And so being kidnapping someone means you, the one kidnapping, deserves a death sentence. Okay, so not money, but a death sentence as a ransom kind of idea. This is what you deserve. So, but he was not kidnapped by the slave traders. He was kidnapped or stolen by his own brothers unlawfully. So actually, right, since Joseph, and especially this is going to play into later in the story why they are going to think that Joseph will now kill him, because they deserve that. They deserve to be executed. Why? Because they sold Joseph, they stole Joseph from his father. They kidnapped him and sent him off into slavery. They deserve, his brothers, in other words, deserve to be executed. So he didn't, and as Moses in chapter 37 explained to us that he did nothing wrong, that they are the ones. So when Joseph is using the word stolen here, he's not saying my brothers sold me into slavery, okay, because this is not the important point here. The important point is, like they, or at least he is here unlawfully. He did nothing wrong. Okay, and then when you use the word pit, in this pit now, seemingly Joseph had quite a good position there in the prison, so he was not really in a pit like Jeremiah is going to be put in the pit later on, but he is making mention of the fact where he was put when he was stolen by his brothers. His brothers put him in a pit without any water, as we know. So now he is again in a prison, and he's comparing this prison to that prison, and that was a pit. So a pit there, a pit here, and this is where we get to. So he was actually, I mean, not that bad off in prison as we know, but he was still in prison, and still for the wrong reasons. And if you are locked up in a place, even in a palace, and you can only be sitting in one place, or maybe move a little bit around, it's still not nice. It's one thing if you're lawfully, because you did something wrong, you're under house arrest or something like that for doing something wrong. But it's a different thing when you're in house arrest for not doing anything wrong. Okay? Then you feel more cooped up as you would otherwise, even though you are in a house, even though you might have your own house and your own TV and everything, internet and all those kinds of things, but you still know that you can't go there, you can't travel anywhere. So it's unlawfully, and you feel therefore more cooped up because you know you were unlawfully put there. Yeah, it's getting quite hot here as well. I mean, it's actually interesting. Well, I mean, when you are in the tropics, even if it's raining, it's not as if it's cold. Okay, so it's raining a lot here today, but it's still very hot, and I'm kind of sweating. My phone is getting hot, and the camera is getting hot, and all of that. And I'm getting hot because of the teaching part as well. I mean, internally because of the teaching.